You have done it 100 times. The egg goes in, you wait a minute, maybe less, and you slide the turner underneath it, sure of yourself, and it tears. The white grabs the iron like it has a grudge against you, the yolk breaks, and what should have been a clean egg is a scraped-up mess, stuck fast to the bottom of the pan. And you stand there, the way every one of us has stood there, and you think the thing everyone thinks in that moment. This old iron pan is too much trouble. Maybe I ought to go back to the slick ones, the ones the store promises will never let a thing stick. I want to stop you right there. Because you are about to throw away the best pan you will ever own, for the want of 3 things nobody bothered to teach you. That pan up there has outlasted 3 of my relatives and shows no sign of quitting on the 4th. Give me 20 minutes, and I will show you why. My name is Moses Shirley. I farm a stretch of ground in Chester County, Pennsylvania, that has fed my family for 3 generations, and I have cooked on this same stove, on this same iron, near every morning of my grown life. My grandfather worked this same soil before me, and his mother before him, and none of us ever thought to call ourselves anything but farmers. I am not a chef. I never went to a school to learn what I am about to tell you. What I know because an old woman in my family stood at this stove and made me watch her hands until I understood, without her needing to explain it twice. I was maybe 7 years old, the first time she let me stand close enough to feel the heat coming off that pan. She did not hand me a book. She did not sit me down and lecture. She simply cooked, morning after morning, and she talked while she worked, half to herself and half to me. And somewhere in all that talking, the knowledge settled into me, the way water settles into ground that has been waiting a long while on rain. That is how it was passed down in this family, generation after generation, not written, not printed, just handed from one set of hands to the next, the way a good tool gets handed down, the way land gets handed down. That was my grandmother. She never wrote a recipe down in her life. She didn't need to. Her hands remembered everything. The pan I am going to talk about today is older than I am, and I am not a young man anymore. It hung in my grandmother's kitchen, then my mother's, and now it hangs in mine, and my granddaughter Esther reaches for it most mornings before I am even out of bed. Esther, that is my granddaughter. She has never known a stove without that pan on it, and I intend to keep it that way. It has never once seen a slick factory coating, never had a thing sprayed on it in a plant somewhere. And I will tell you plainly, it is more truly non-stick, right now, this morning, than any pan sold new in a store this year, with nothing in it but iron and the fat that has soaked into it, cooked in slow, year over year, the way it has always been done. I have thought about that pan a great deal over the years, more than a grown man probably ought to think about a piece of cookware. But it is not really the iron I am thinking about when I look at it hanging there. It is every hand that has ever touched it. My grandmother's hands, cracked from years of field work and washing. My mother's hands, steadier, softer, but taught by the same lessons. My own hands now, weathered in their own particular way. And soon enough, Esther's hands, still small, still learning where the handle sits just right. A pan like that is not really an object anymore. It becomes something closer to a member of the family, one that never talks back and never asks for a single thing except to be treated with a little sense. No coating to scratch loose into your food. No chemical the factories themselves are now quietly walking back. Just iron, fire, and fat, the way it has always been. But that pan only behaves for you if you understand 3 things about it. Most folks get every one of them backward, and then they turn around and blame the pan for their own mistakes. So let me show you the way my grandmother showed me. How to lay an egg over easy on bare iron and have it slide across that pan like it is riding on ice. Let me start with the secret that matters most, because if you get this one wrong, nothing that follows will save you. 9 folks out of 10 get this one backward, and they never even know it. The reason your food sticks is almost never the seasoning. It is the heat. More exactly, it is that the food went in before the pan was ready to receive it. Here is what my grandmother taught me at that very stove, and I have never once found her wrong. Cast iron is not like a thin steel pan that heats the instant you strike a flame under it. Iron is heavy, and iron is slow. It takes its own good time coming up to temperature, and once it gets there, it holds that heat like a stone that has sat all day in the sun. That slowness is the whole gift of the pan. Even heat, all the way through, that never flinches once it settles in. But that same slowness is the thing folks fight against without meaning to. They set a cold pan on the fire, drop the butter in right away, crack the egg in behind it, and the pan is still cold clear through, no matter how it looks on top. Cold iron grabs. It is the cold pan that sticks, near every single time, and the pan gets blamed for a mistake it never made. So the first secret is patience, plain and simple. You set your bare pan on a medium flame, nothing in it, no fat, no food, and you leave it be. Nothing in it. Just the bare iron warming through, all the way through, not only on top. Give it a few minutes, longer than you think you should. You will know it is ready when you hold your hand a span above the surface and feel that heat rising up steady and even. No hot spots, no cold corners. And you may catch the faintest wisp of a thread lifting off that dry iron. That is the pan telling you plainly that it is ready. Hot iron releases, cold iron grabs. Learn that one thing and trust it, and it will fix more stuck eggs than every tin of seasoning ever sold. I have watched grown men, grandfathers themselves, stand at a stove and rush that step because they were hungry and impatient, and I have watched the exact same mistake happen every single time. The pan does not care how hungry you are. It does not care that you are running late for the fields or the market or wherever else you are headed. It only cares whether you gave it the time it needs to come up to temperature, all the way through, before you asked anything of it. That is not a small thing to learn. That is closer to a way of living than a cooking tip, if you sit with it long enough. Now, and only now, does the fat go in. Everything I am telling you today, my grandmother carried in her hands, not on paper. I only wrote it down so it would not disappear with me. So the pan is hot clear through. Now you drop in your butter, or a spoon of lard, or whatever good fat you keep close to the stove, and you watch how it moves. On a properly heated pan, that fat does not just sit there stubborn. It slackens, it runs, it spreads thin and bright across the whole surface, hunting out every low spot on its own. You tip the pan a little, coat it edge to edge, and that sheet of hot fat on hot iron is the very thing your egg is about to ride on. It is what those slick factory pans have been pretending to be all along. You have made the real thing in 10 seconds, with a knob of butter and a hot piece of iron. Now the egg goes in, and here comes the second secret, and I will tell you honestly, it is a secret of nerve more than of skill. Once that egg lands in the pan, you leave it alone. You do not touch it, you do not nudge it, you do not go poking at it with the turner the moment it lands. This is where the impatient cook ruins everything he was about to do right. He sees the egg sitting there and he wants to be busy with it, so he slides the turner underneath before the egg has decided to let go on its own, and of course it tears, because he is the one who tore it. Let it be. Let it sit in that hot fat and take its first set, undisturbed. You will hear it before you see it, a steady, gentle simmering, the white turning slowly from clear to solid. Give it that half a minute of faith. It feels longer than it is, standing there doing nothing on purpose. Then take the pan by the handle and give it a small shake, a little jog forward and back, nothing violent. If you did the first two secrets right, that egg will slide, the whole of it, loose and gliding across the iron free as you please, not stuck in one single spot. That is the iron telling you it has released. Now and only now you slip your turner underneath, and it goes under easy, because the egg already let go on its own before you ever touched it. My father, rest him, used to say that patience was the only ingredient in this house that never ran short, because nobody around here ever thought to buy it at the store. He was talking about more than eggs when he said it, but he said it standing right at this stove more times than I can count, and it stuck with me the way the best lessons do, sideways, without you noticing they had landed until years later. You flip it, a few seconds on the far side, yolk left whole and soft underneath, and you tip it clean onto the plate. Nothing left behind. A pan you could near wipe clean with a dry cloth. That is bare iron doing what no coated pan will ever truly do. 2 secrets down, and I will tell you plainly, the third one is the one most people never learn at all, and it is the one that decides whether that pan stays this good or slowly turns against you. My grandson watches me from that doorway most mornings, the same way I once watched my grandmother. He is learning without knowing he is learning, same as I did. The third secret is the cleaning, because how you treat that pan after supper is exactly how it treats you back at breakfast. The old rule starts the moment the food comes off, while the pan is still warm. Warm iron lets go of near anything clinging to it. Cold iron sets that same thing like cement, so you clean it warm, not cold, and never after it has sat all night forgotten on the stove. For a pan like this one, where the egg slid off clean on its own, there is near nothing left to do. A wipe with a cloth, and you are most of the way home already. If something did stick, some fried-on bit at the edge, you do not reach for a harsh scouring pad that would tear the seasoning right off the iron with it. The old answer is sitting right there in the cupboard already, a handful of coarse salt. You throw the salt into the warm pan and scrub it round with a wad of cloth, and the salt scours off whatever stuck without ever touching the baked-in seasoning underneath it. Salt is the old scrubbing powder for iron, and it has never once been bettered for the job. Now, water. Folks are frightened of water on cast iron, and I will tell you, they are only half right to be. Water is not the enemy of that pan. Water left sitting on it is the enemy. You may give the pan a quick rinse under hot water to clear it, and that is fine, so long as you understand the rule that comes right behind it, the rule that everyone forgets in a hurry. Anytime water touches that iron, you dry it at once, and you dry it completely. Not set in a rack to drip on its own time. Not left to air dry while you go on to something else. Bare iron and standing water make rust, plain and simple, and rust is the one true thing that wrecks a pan for good. I have seen good pans ruined this way, left wet in a sink overnight, by somebody who did not know any better. So you take your towel and you wipe out every bit of moisture you can find, and then comes the step that separates a pan that lasts 100 years from one that rusts through in a month. You set it back on the burner, low flame, a minute or two, and let the last hidden moisture steam away to nothing. That gentle warmth drives the water out of the very pores of the iron, and as the old people knew without ever needing fancy words for it, the warm iron opens up just enough to take a fresh skim of oil, and that fresh oil is the last thing. While the pan is still warm and bone dry, you put in a few drops of oil, and I mean a few. This is where folks go wrong from the other direction, drowning the pan in oil, thinking more must mean better. Too much oil bakes down sticky and gummy and spotted, and now you have gone and made yourself a brand new problem. So a few drops only. Take an old cloth, one you do not mind staining for good, and rub that oil all across the cooking surface and a little way up the sides. Then take a clean, dry corner of that same cloth and wipe it back off again until the pan looks almost dry, just the barest sheen left behind. You are not coating the pan, you are sealing it. A whisper of oil to keep the air and the damp off the iron until the next time you cook. Then you let it cool, and you hang it back up, ready for the morning, the same way my grandmother left hers. Now I want to tell you something else, not to rile you up, just so you see the shape of the thing, because once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it again. There is no money in a pan that lasts 200 years. The pan hanging over my stove, I intend to hand to Esther one day, and not one company on this earth will earn a cent when I do. But there is a great deal of money sitting in a pan that wears out. Those slick black pans with the sprayed coating are sold to you as the easy answer. No seasoning, no fuss, nothing sticks, they promise you. And then a year goes by, maybe 2, maybe 3 if you are gentle with it, and that coating scratches and flakes and finally gives out, and into the bin it goes, and you buy yourself another one. That is not a flaw in the plan. That is the plan. A pan that must be replaced is a pan that can be sold to you again. A pan that outlives you is sold to you exactly once, and never again after that. I am not telling you that a man sat in some room and schemed to make your pan fail on you. Nobody had to. It is worse than a conspiracy, because it is a system nobody ever had to sit down and coordinate. It simply pays better to sell a man a pan that fails than to teach him to keep one forever. Think on that for a moment, because it runs a good deal wider than kitchenware. It runs through nearly everything we are sold these days. The furniture that used to last 3 generations now barely survives one. The tools that used to get sharpened and passed down now get thrown out and replaced. Somewhere along the way, a great many of us stopped expecting things to last. And once you stop expecting a thing to last, you stop learning how to keep it. And once nobody knows how to keep a thing, the whole skill of keeping it quietly disappears from a family, sometimes in a single generation. That is the real cost of all this convenience, and it is rarely counted on any price tag. The old people kept theirs forever, plain and simple, because nobody back then was standing over their shoulder trying to sell them the next one. So there it is, the whole of it. The 3 secrets most folks get wrong without ever knowing it. Heat the bare pan all the way through before any fat goes in, because hot iron releases and cold iron grabs, and there is no shortcut around that truth. Let the food take its first set and slide on its own before you ever lay a turner near it, because the pan will tell you when it is ready, if you are patient enough to listen. And clean it warm, with salt and not a harsh pad. Dry it the moment water touches it, and seal it after with a whisper of oil, never a flood of it. Do those 3 things faithfully, and your bare iron will be slicker than anything the factory ever sold you, with nothing in it but iron and good fat. And it will still be cooking your grandchildren's eggs long after every slick pan sold this year has gone quietly to rust in somebody's garbage. There is a kind of wealth in that, though it does not look like wealth the way most folks measure it now. It is not money in a bank, and it will not show up on any statement. It is a pan a family never has to buy again. It is a lesson a grandmother only ever has to teach once, properly, and it carries a household through 100 years of breakfasts. I have come to believe that this is closer to what real inheritance means, more than land, more than money left behind in a will. It is a way of doing a small thing correctly, taught patiently, and trusted enough to be repeated exactly, morning after morning, for as long as the family stands. My grandson tried it himself last week, first time on his own. Tore the egg a little, same as all of us do at first. I did not scold him for it. I only told him what my grandmother told me. The pan is not against you. It is only waiting on you to slow down. Second try, it slid clean across the pan just like it should, and I have not seen that boy smile that wide in some time. That is the thing about knowledge handed down properly. It does not skip a generation just because nobody wrote it in a book first. Now I want to hear from you, and I am asking honestly, because I learn a good part of what I know now from these comments underneath my videos. Tell me down there, do you have an old cast iron pan handed down somewhere in your own family? And how old is it, if you know? Who cooked on it before it ever reached your hands? And tell me honestly, what is the one thing you always thought you were doing wrong with your own cast iron? I would wager it was the heat all along. I read every one of them, and I mean that. I love hearing whose grandmother's pan is still hanging over whose stove, all these years later. Next time, I want to take the worst pan you can imagine, rusted through, crusted over, the kind most folks would carry straight to the dump without a second thought. And I am going to show you how the old people brought a pan exactly like that all the way back to life. Because a rusted pan is not a ruined pan. It is only a pan that got forgotten for a while. And once you know how the old people brought one back, you will never pass up a good iron pan at a sale again, no matter how rough it looks sitting on that table. A good pan is a thing you are meant to keep, not a thing you use up and set out on a table for somebody else to haul away. My grandmother cooked 10,000 meals, easy, on the pan that hangs over my stove right now, and it never once asked her for anything more than a little heat, a little patience, and a whisper of oil. The kitchen that feeds a family for generations is the kitchen that remembers how to keep its iron. The people who built what we have with their own hands knew that long before any of us did, and we are only just now starting to remember it ourselves. Esther will be standing right there one day, teaching this to somebody of her own. That is the whole point of keeping a thing this well. I think about that a good deal more than I used to, now that I am the oldest one standing at this stove. There will come a morning when I am not the one cracking the egg, when it is Esther's hands doing it, or her children's hands after that. And the pan will not know the difference, because the pan does not measure time the way we do. It only knows heat and patience and care, given consistently by whoever happens to be standing in front of it. That is a comfort to me, more than I can rightly put into words. Some things we build get torn down. Some things we plant do not survive the winter. But a well-kept pan, treated the way the old people treated theirs, outlasts nearly everything else a family owns. And it asks for almost nothing in return. Take care of your iron, and it will take care of you and yours long after you are gone. I will see you next time.